they had a nice scene there in Bolinas, and here was far more subdued. I mean, you're either going back to the land or you're going to outer space. I wouldn't call it a restaurant. It was more like a student union at some whacked out college. Yeah, the place ran on music. The fact that Cat Mother was here was amazing. And that was refreshing. It was a very magical little time here. And the sheriff rode a horse. I never got over that. I forgot where I was going. You know, I'm getting old. Sometimes the stream of knowledge and stream of babble just comes through. We were before our time. Unfortunately, the world was behind its time in New York City. The unlikely path of having to put a band together, finding places to rehearse, drink. And that led us to the business people that heard us play rhythm and blues. And that was like 1966 or so, 65. There were no white people playing the blues. And these record executives actually heard us, and they couldn't believe it. They liked it, and they signed us to a record deal. Hamilton Faceman. It's not an African groove. It's more of a European piano kind of groove. And Americans don't really get that. We weren't doing it on purpose. We didn't know how to play any other way. We were terminally white. But we lived through it. We tried to do concepts. We tried to do things that were meaningful. But there's only 30 words and 13 notes. It was an intellectual time. And story and meaning meant something to the music. So you worked harder on that than the groove, which was a mistake. Very little pre-thought went into anything we did. Because if we had pre-thought, we would have quit. And we didn't quit, and we got 2 or 3 years of irreplaceable moments.
Sit right down and look me straight in the eye.
If it wasn't for Lenny Capizzi, I never would have stayed in LA. Lenny Capizzi wrote the Monster Mash. And every year around Halloween, he'd pull out the mask and we'd go play for 2 or 3 days. I was Frankenstein in the big mask. And Lenny was Dracula, of course. And we played movie theaters. They would play the record of the Monster Mash. And we would just mug it. And they paid us. It was great. Yeah, for us it was, who are you? And we came from a place where at least people knew that we were somebody. We were on a label. We had a manager, we had an agent, all the important things. Cackle, cackle. And here, that didn't mean anything. The only thing that meant anything was the music. And that was refreshing. That was pretty good. I mean, there was a dance the next week and we were asked to be part of the band. And we rolled. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, the place ran on music. Always a dance on Saturday night. Well, they had a nice scene there in Bolinas and Simpson Beach, Point Reyes. He refers to Marin County, where there was a bunch of money. and a bunch of pot, and a bunch of very stoned people. Here was far more subdued. The place we were talking about, we used to call it the UGG, the Uncommon Good. I wouldn't call it a restaurant. It was more like a student union at some whacked out college. A lot of really smart people acting really stupid. What was amazing was the amount of people that came through Mendocino, and the people would come through town. Musicians want to play everywhere, so you'd have your dinner, and Richie Havens would walk out. Gene Clark would walk out. Lot of Shel Silverstein would come. These people were passing through or visiting people from out of town. I don't think you could have even. You began to not be surprised as you were having. I used to drink coffee in the morning with the guy from Taxi, from Back to the Future, Christopher Lloyd. And he would just talk to everyone. We didn't bother him. He didn't bother us. But we all kind of knew each other. We all talked. It was amazing. If he had been in one of many other places, he would have been enabled to blend in. I hate that phrase. Back to the land. How do you leave the land? I mean, you're either going back to the land or you're going to outer space. There were communes here that were the beginning and the end for them. I mean, they were able to subsist on almost nothing. That didn't get generated by their own little farm or their own little garden. Yeah, after you went through a winter up here, you knew a lot about rain. Yeah, it used to be, like if we were in a band, so you'd get off at 2 o'clock, pack up your gear, go to the front door, and it's pouring cats and dogs out there. And you got to drive home. The old stagecoach road. Now they've got it so you can drive those big Winnebagos down it. A lot of the people that have lived here used to have the little driving badge of honor after driving 128, not knowing what shape the road was going to be in, potholes, caved in. And you drove 128, and you could kind of cackle at the people. Oh, it's your first time? That stretch of 128 where the Navarro River, it used to look like a pixie festival. It was some kind of Stravinsky was all I could think of. Nobody had any clothes on. They were swimming in the river, and it was like 40 yards from the highway. And the only people that seemed to think that was strange was us. Until we did it, then we didn't think it was strange either. I always thought it was because of the music. That the music fomented activity that you wouldn't have had without it. Well, the commercialization of music was not in keeping with who we were in California. So the fact that you would go and play on somebody else's record, that's nice. You want to go shoot some pool? I mean, that's the way I see it. Type A musicians were not really in style. Frank Zappa called it no commercial potential. You almost have to want to be commercial to get to be commercial. If you don't allow commercial, it was not important enough not to be important. It was just is. And that's why when they played, there was this aura. The fact that Cat Mother was here was amazing. Well, because they were competent at a certain style of music far beyond what you would find at some gas station here. the middle of nowhere. And there was this fetching kind of vibe. And all of that music, more music, more freedom. We knew them because we were moving into an apartment that they had just moved out of. A couple times we played with them at the electric service. I thought they were great. They had that New Orleans kind of Mardi Gras feel. And because Bob had the B3, there was no room he couldn't fill. They played good. It was the kind of good you can't explain. You couldn't explain what they were doing. It was just magical. One moment they'd be playing like Little Feet, and the next moment they'd be playing like Steppenwolf. They did not care why you liked it, they only cared that you did. Because they lived in San Francisco for quite a while. And when you heard them play at a show in San Francisco, it had exactly the same vibe and the same way of playing music as they did in the country. They were able to take the music that they learned here to the Mission District, and it was just as magical for people that had never heard it before and were not part of the social genesis of the music. And that impressed me. This was a good band.
Everybody get on your feet. You make me nervous when you're in your seat. Pick up your shoes, throw them away. Come back and get them another day.
Once a day, I make sense, once a day. Is it all worth it? And you sit out on the edge of the world at daylight savings time, and the glare from the edge of the world produces like enormous skies. It was a very magical little time here. And the sheriff rode a horse. I never got over that.
To growing smaller, and a lifetime filled with daydreams is a lifetime of abuse. And there's no trace of yesterday, ring around the sun. No trace of tomorrow. Today my life has just begun, and there's no trace of yesterday, ring around the sun. No trace of tomorrow. my life has just begun, and there's no trace of yesterday. Ring around the sun. There's no trace of tomorrow. Today, my life has just begun.
Well, just begun.